Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I'm so excited to have you here with me today, and I have such a wonderful guest. I love what Zoe is doing. I love the way she brings this grounding energy into ourselves, and so I really think that you guys are going to get some amazing tools and insights and just learn. I can't kind of believe this is the theme that we've been going for all year, how to be present with ourselves, how to be more aware of ourselves and the things that are going on. And so, Zoe, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Well, as we dive in, I always love for my guests to give everybody a little background of who they are. So do us all a favor. Will you tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do?
So I'm Zoe, and I'm the founder of Your Vitality Coaching, which is based in the UK, but also online. So we're global, we go all over the world. So I've had a varied background, very varied background, but all paths from my background have sort of been the path towards where I am today, if you like. It all joins up under Your Vitality Coaching. So I started out as a secondary school teacher and quickly realised that as much as I loved being in the classroom with the young people, the paperwork just wasn't for me. So I came out of teaching fairly quickly after just a few years. And I went into local government and into policy for workforce development for adult social care. And I did that for quite a few years, working my way up from local government to ultimately national government and then up into working for the NHS in the NHS England team sort of nationally. So I really enjoyed that and it gave me a lot of satisfaction for a long time, but ultimately ended up with 5 or 6 months off work with anxiety and depression, which was sort of at the time I felt was linked with my job, but actually when I went through talking therapy and looked at ways of dealing with that, I realised actually it wasn't just the job, it was a combination of factors and a lot of things that I hadn't dealt with and had buried and subconsciously. So I was able to take that time to really get to grips with what was going on in my life and how I was feeling. And one of the things that I was adamant about was that I didn't want to go onto antidepressants. So
Mm.
my doctor said to me, that's fine. You don't have to have antidepressants, but if you're not going to take them, how do you propose to get better? And I didn't have the answer there and then because I'd never been in that situation before. So I went away and I did some research, and that was how I sort of, it wasn't how I discovered yoga, but it was how I discovered how yoga can really help with your mental health as well as just flexibility, which was what I'd previously thought. I thought yoga was all about being flexible. And of course, that is part of it, but there's so many more benefits. So I came out the other side and I changed jobs and I sort of it's my career in a lot of ways has been the reverse of what it is for many other people. So I then trained as a mental capacity advocate and supported people lacking capacity to make key decisions about their life. And then I managed a domiciliary care service. I've always been a fitness instructor and personal trainer. I've always done that part-time alongside whatever else I've been doing. And then I made that my full-time focus for a while. And then I decided I wanted to travel. And so I was like, how can I travel and pay for it all at the same time? So I ended up working in China teaching English. So I went back to my teaching.
Wow.
And then I was out in China whilst COVID was happening. So whilst the borders in China were shut and they couldn't get teachers in for the following academic year, I was fortunate to be able to step into a primary school teaching role, which would never have happened in the UK. And after only a few weeks, the principal came to my classroom and said, "We need a PYP coordinator, which Prime Year's Programme Coordinator. Would you be willing to step in?" She said, "There isn't much work to do, don't worry, and you'll get a pay rise." And then I quickly realised actually it was the equivalent of a kind of deputy head role that we would have had in the UK. There was a
No.
lot of extra work. I absolutely loved it. And so when I'd finished in China, I came back to the UK and went back into teaching and just realised how our country is riding on a reputation of old, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. In my opinion, the healthcare system is broken. The education system is broken. The transport system is largely broken. The economy's broken. Everything's broken, and we're all sort of limping along the best we can. And some people are clearly aware of what needs to change, and other people turn a complete blind eye, and some people are oblivious. And it's just really interesting to watch the interaction in society and how people are coping with it. So I didn't stay back in primary teaching long in the UK. And it was at that point I thought, right, what am I going to do? And I'd qualified as a hypnotherapist with the QHHT method, which is the Dolores Cannon method. Um, and I had undertaken my Reiki training. I'd become a Reiki master. And just everything sort of came together. And the fitness instructing, I went back into fitness instructing. And then I have gradually, over the last few years, sort of weaved that all together into your vitality coaching. So now I work with people and support them through grief and burnout and stress and the ups and downs of life, really, because we all go through those horrific events. Um, Sometimes more horrific than others, and sometimes just mildly annoying and not horrific at all. But we all experience them on a daily basis. And sometimes learning how to navigate them can be the real key. And in doing that, you've got to really understand yourself and where you're coming from and be able to take that time to tune into your body and to go beyond what you're feeling physically, to think about why are you feeling it physically? Where is it coming from? Is it emotions? Is it that you're not paying enough attention to your diet, to your sleep, to your exercise? Everything is linked, and it's just helping people to see that and understand that rather than reaching for a tablet and a magic pill to change their life. We're in so much control, but in the West, we're not always taught that and we're not always aware of it.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I love that, what's really interesting is you have done so much in your lifespan, right? You have done so much that I almost feel like you have even more information and learning or experience. There we go. That was that word I was looking for. Experience of what people are going through, right? You've been in so many different environments that you have the ability to see what is happening, what is going on with them, and then be able to take that, right, and then put that into this beautiful role where you get to kind of fully encompass people in what you're doing. And what's really funny is, you said in the beginning that you thought yoga was just for stretching. Okay, I am so there with you that I was like, why would I want to do yoga? Like yoga, it's like I would prefer to just work out. And I'll give my side of it, but I would love to hear your side and your take on yoga specifically, because one of the things that I decided to do was really kind of jump into yoga per se. And I was like, okay, I need to do some stretches. My back is sore, my shoulders are a little tense. And I thought, well, what if I just kind of did like 10 or 15 minutes in the morning of whatever I feel like stretching, right? Like I wasn't really following a process. I was just kind of doing what felt good to me. But then what I found out was if I really did it in a space that was quiet, which I tried to do it outside in the morning, I was able to focus my breath on the stretches, right? So you breathe in as you stretch and then breathe out as you're going. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Okay. So it's almost to me, it's like a form of meditation in certain aspects,
Yeah.
which is actually not only really calming, but also really like relaxing. Like I always felt so like 10 or 15 minutes. And it's really interesting because again, I thought like yoga was just for like, oh, you like stretch and you like get strong because it's a different way to move your body. And that's like all that I knew about it. So I love that you figured out this concept as well. And I want your take on what you see yoga as, how you use it in what you do, and just your kind of definition of it.
It was really interesting because I first discovered yoga when I went traveling in India when I was only about 18, 19, I can't remember. And so I was sort of exposed to it, became aware of it. And I dabbled with it every now and then. I'd do a little bit at home or I'd go to a class, but nothing ever really serious. And exactly like you, I was kind of like, well, I'd rather go for my workout, come out sweating. Then I know I've worked hard. I want to burn calories. I want to tone up. I want to lose fat, whatever it would be at the time. But yoga just didn't really fit because I'm already quite flexible as a person, and I didn't really feel like I needed that. So it wasn't until I was off work with anxiety and depression and figuring out how on earth I was going to treat it without any pills. And I discovered an Ashtanga yoga class locally. And I don't really know how I ended up at that class or how I discovered it and why I thought it was a good idea, but somehow I ended up at this class. And Ashtanga's fairly fast flow as yoga goes. It's one of the more physically demanding. It's a vinyasa type flow of class. And so I suppose for me at the time, I still felt like I was working hard. It was challenging me because, as you say, it's being strong in your body in a different way. And so the arm balances and things like that, I didn't do
Hmm.
those in the gym. So that was a whole different way of working. So it worked for me. But I'll never forget that first class because right at the end where we did the Shavasana, I laid there and the instructor gave us blankets. And I just remember lying under a blanket and it was just the most peaceful place I'd experienced in a long time. My mind was able to switch off. He did a guided meditation and I just floated off somewhere. And at the end, when he said, and now you can open your eyes, I just wanted to lie there. I didn't want to open my eyes. I just wanted to be in that moment forever. And I walked out of that class somewhere up here on a cloud. Like I felt so good. And from that moment on, my relationship with yoga's grown. And so now I'm a qualified instructor. I teach Hatha and I teach Yin. And I'm just in the process of completing my advanced teacher training so that I can incorporate chair yoga and post and prenatal and things
Oh,
like that.
nice.
Um,
That's
but I,
awesome.
I adore the fact, like you say, that it's body and breath, it's body, mind, and breath. And it
Hmm.
is a form of meditation because if you're truly practicing your yoga and you're truly focused on your movement and your breathing, then everything else disappears from your mind. And that is a form of meditation. And the relaxation at the end, as a yoga teacher, I die inside every time someone in my class gets up. As soon as I say, right, we're going to move into our relaxation, please get hold of anything that, and two people will grab their shoes and their mat and they'll dart out the door. And my heart just sinks because I think you are missing the most important part of the class because you've done all of the practice, you've built the
Hmm.
energy up, you've calmed it back down, and now you get to settle that energy and integrate everything that we've done in the session into your energy so that you can walk out with that euphoric, calm, peaceful feeling. And that I just wish you could sell it in a bottle because it's amazing, that feeling.
Yes, 100%. So funny enough, when I started doing some of the yoga stretches and things like that, um, kind of out of the blue one day was like, I wonder if I should just sit down and kind of do my little bit of meditation to kind of end everything. And it wasn't something that I did in the beginning. I kind of, I would stretch, I would feel really great and be like, oh, that's amazing. And then I would go in and I would get started. You're right. It really is completely different when after you get in that state to take the extra couple of moments to like really embody it. It's almost like this is going to sound funny, you guys. Like if you watch when you're filling your fuel tank up and you watch it go from empty to full, I feel like that's kind of how it feels in your body. Like you're
Yeah.
relaxed, yes, but once you like really kind of start to give those couple of extra minutes to feel it, it's kind of like your tank goes from toes all the way up to the top of your head, and you're like, ah, nothing could upset me. Okay, yes, things can, but it's really interesting, like the clarity and the amount of space that I feel like it provides
Yeah.
when it comes to dealing with things like throughout your day. And I really found that super important for me, especially in the beginning, because I have always been, or I guess let's say I used to be, a very hot-headed, high energy dramatic person. So things would happen that would frustrate me and it would just like it would light me up. And it would be really hard to be frustrated and then come back down, So for anybody that's out there, if you've ever had those moments where somebody just really pisses you off and you're like, oh, but like 45 minutes later, you keep kind of going back to that scenario, even though you're focused on other things. That's what used to happen. And by doing things like this, like yoga and meditation, or just little 5-minute breathing sessions where I'm only focusing on me, has really created a space where, yes, I still get frustrated. Yes, there are still things that tick me off. But what I've noticed is my capacity to be able to come back down from it, which has been really, really cool because then it doesn't destroy the next thing that happens. Or what I see a lot of us do, and I used to do this as well, is you would have multiple things right throughout the day that would frustrate you, that would tick you off, that you had to deal with. And because you never got a chance to come down off of any of them, you had like this giant buildup. And then by the time I got home and I had to deal with kids, which I have two beautifully rambunctious boys, it was like everything that they did, every little thing was just like the biggest trigger, and I felt myself yelling at them more. And I don't think it was necessarily because it really was that big of a deal, but it was just all of these things that had compiled together. And unfortunately, that was coming out on them at that time. And I have really, really like pushed that of it's very important to make that space, to make sure you have time to be calm, to make sure you have time to come back to a center focus so that you aren't shoving all of that built up energy that doesn't belong to someone else and you're giving it to them because that's not fair. And I've seen that, in friendships, relationships, kids, and things like that. But that's, I don't know, that's just kind of my take.
It's interesting what you say because I work with some of my clients obviously have children. I don't have children myself, but been working with a few lately, and it's been really interesting to see how they have weaved meditation and yoga and Reiki into their home life. So making the time, like you say, to, and it doesn't have to be long, it can be 5, 10 minutes of meditation or breath work or a little bit of yoga, whatever it is that works for you. And taking that time, that brings you back into that sort of maintenance. I can cope, I'm here, I'm strong, I'm going to get through today. Today's going to be good. Can bring you back to that. And what I've really noticed with some of my clients, they have started doing that and protecting that time on a morning, but they tell the family. So they'll be like, Mummy is just going to do her meditation right now. So you know that you can play on your iPad or you can go and draw or whatever it is that their kids are doing, but you mustn't disturb Mummy. And so for the first couple of days until they realize that Mummy actually means it, then they'll be like, kind of like, Mummy, I need this, Mummy, and Mummy will ignore them. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then the next few days, they're like, well, what's she actually doing? Because she's not giving me any attention, and she wants this 10 minutes for her, and she's sticking to it. So what is she doing? And then they'll start being curious. And then they'll want to try it for themselves. So they go and sit with mummy, and actually, it has a really calming effect over time on the rest of the family as well. And so I've seen some people's kids have gone from kind of being like all the time to like, hang on a minute, mummy means it. She's having this 10 minutes. All right, then, well, if mummy's having 10 minutes, I'm going to have 10 minutes too. And then quite a few have been like meditating together, or I have a lady who is one of my Reiki clients and Reiki students, and her kids are learning Reiki from her. And it's just amazing. And it's so nice to see that because it really does protect that time for you as an adult, as a mother, as a person, but also
Hmm.
filter down to the family as well. It's really interesting.
Ooh, I love that. It's kind of like, they say you are always teaching people how to treat you.
Mm,
And on top of that, when people start to see changes like that, especially those that are like right really close to you, like one of two things happens. Either they notice it and they're like, all right, I'm seeing changes. Now I'm kind of interested, or it ends up being a wound, and that's more for, friends, partners, and stuff like that. But a wound for them, and they're like, ugh, I don't really like the way this person is changing. And then you realize that that's because it's something that they need to handle. But I love the fact that you're saying that, kids are really getting into it.
yeah.
My boys are 21 and 17, and it's really funny when I talk about it because at first it was really weird because it wasn't anything that we ever did. But I have noticed that they will now come out and say like, "Hey, I need like 5 minutes to kind of calm down and cool off, and then we can continue the conversation." And I'm like, "All right, that's fine," which was not something that ever happened in my household. We would argue until we were done arguing, right? Whether the problem was solved or not, we were making sure we were getting our point across. And that doesn't do anyone any good because you're in such a high emotional state that you don't have the ability to actually be logical and see everything. And you got these blinders on for whatever emotion you're in at that moment. And that's all that you're doing. And so it's been a really cool turning point for my boys, even being older and starting to see this, that now they're starting to implement that piece of it as well, like you're seeing with other
Yeah.
kids. So I do think we are constantly teaching people how to treat us, and that then pulls in more people that want to be similar, and kind of pushes away those that aren't ready for that kind of connection yet.
Yeah. I always see that as like vibration and frequencies. We all operate on different frequencies and we attract people who operate on similar frequencies to us. And we are repelled by people who are on different frequencies. And it's the same idea. But I'm a Reiki master, so I see a lot of things as energy and I do sound healing as well. So that's all about frequency. And I just find it amazing how we always find our people
Hmm.
in the most random of places and at the most random times. But yeah,
Yes.
you're right. Like attracts like.
Like definitely. Now you talk about, in your on your website and things like that, that you also really come from, this very grounded space, which is just a very, very calm, very neutral space, and helping people understand, the traumas that can be attached. And you kind of talked about this in your job that you were doing as well, of where when you felt you were burnt out, you realized it was partially the job, but also other things that you hadn't dealt with. So for anyone that maybe, let's say, is kind of in that space, maybe they kind of feel like my job is sucking the life from me, but I kind of enjoy it. Maybe it's kind of what she's talking about, where maybe there's unresolved things. What would be some things that you could give them or could guide them in the beginning, just to kind of help them understand what is going on so that they can then move forward in that direction if they choose?
I always think the first thing to do is to make time for yourself. So that 5 or 10 minutes, if it can only be 5 or 10 minutes, then keep that 5 or 10 minutes. If you've got half an hour or an hour a day or an hour every other day or however long, take that time, but take some time for you. And by that I mean time where you can actually be in your body, in your mind, with no other distractions, not watching YouTube, not doing anything, just being with you and maybe a journal, maybe doing some breath work, maybe doing some yoga so you're tuning into body and breath. Um, whatever it might be. I have a Shakti mat, which is one of those acupressure mats that's got loads of discs on it with spikes
Ooh,
on. And when I'm
yes.
lying on that, I can't move because it hurts. If I try to move, it hurts. If I lie still and relax, it's fine. So when I'm on that, that is my guaranteed like 20 minutes. If I can't make any other time that day, that's my 20 minutes to just like zone out, tune in. And it is when we allow our body and mind to go silent, that's when we can start to unpick some of the issues we're having. And that varies. So I'm going to use myself as an example at the moment. I'm moving house at the minute. So I'm living between two houses and I'm in a house that I've been renting and I'm moving into a house that I've bought. And the house that I've bought needs loads of building work and decorating and all sorts doing. So I've been like coordinating different tradesmen and oh, you can imagine. So So in the past, that would have been a whole thing. It would have just like, and I'm not saying that it isn't stressful now, and I'm not going to try and pretend that I've handled it immaculately because I would be lying. However, I do know that like when I look back to where I am now, I've handled it so much better. And a little bit like you, in the past, I could be quite dramatic and quite like, oh, why did this have to happen? And then everything would blow up. And I'm not like that anymore. And I've really put that down to the breath work, the yoga, the meditation, the taking time, the getting out in nature. And these are all small things. None of those cost any money. And they can all be done in 10 minutes to an hour a day. And I can choose how long I spend. And so then having that time to step back from whatever the chaos is, to just take that time and getting out in nature can be amazing for that. Out, walking, thinking, processing. And sometimes when you are unhappy with your job, there's too much in the job going on to be able to take that step back whilst you're at work. So finding some time in the day where you can step back helps you to see things more clearly and to start to unpick. And once you've made that time and you're starting to tune in, you can then look at other methods for starting to understand, well, what is the trigger? Where has this trigger come from? Is it me? Am I right in my understanding of what's happening, or is this coming from something somewhere else? What is it that's poked me to raise this emotional response? And what is the emotion that I'm feeling, and why am I feeling it? Those deeper questions, they can be hard to answer at first, especially if we are shutting out the real reason. And we do that subconsciously. If we are not consciously ready to process something, we bury it until we are ready. Now, we might be ready to process that fairly soon before it manifests into anything else, and that's great. Sometimes, though, those emotions get buried for years, and it isn't until we've then got an ache or pain somewhere or an illness from somewhere and they've started to manifest in the physical that we then will deal with it. And even then, sometimes you have to have a whole string of physical conditions before somebody will deal with it. And some people build up a catalogue of long-term conditions before they would ever think to explore their emotions. But actually, everything we experience in the physical, in terms of injuries, illnesses, and those kind of things, obviously nothing accidental, although I won't dig into that today. Um, but all of those things always are messages, and there's always a message for us, and it's telling us to do something. Our energy's got blocked somewhere. That's a sign. And we are always in control. We've always got choices. We might not feel in control. We might not like the options, but they're always there. And it's just creating that space, that time to be able to process and then to look at the tools for how to unpick what it is you're feeling and why you're feeling it. And somatic healing can be great for that, different somatic practices, but also there's different yoga techniques, different meditations, different breathwork exercises. Hypnotherapy can be great. There's all sorts, there's so many different tools, and it's different for each issue, for each person. And it's just
Hmm.
finding and exploring and keeping your mind open to what will work for you.
Yeah, I think that that's the cool part is it's not a one thing fits all. It is an
No.
individualized approach. And I think that that's super cool because it gives you the opportunity to try out all these different modalities to see what it is that resonates with you. I mean, I've done so many different things from tapping to having Reiki done on me to hypnotherapy. Yoga, meditation, like journaling, all these different things. And it's really kind of cool because what you end up doing is instead of seeing it as like, oh, okay, I gotta try all these things and figure out what works for me and what if they don't work, what you get to do is you get to find out what does work and then you get to use those to your advantage in the times when you need them because sometimes right meditation is really great but at other times I might not have time for that or I'm just not in the mood for that so journaling might be what I go to or if it's been a lot of stress maybe I'm like you know what none of this I need like some deep stuff I'm gonna go find me a Reiki master so it's really interesting I want you guys to kind of think of it that way is it's not that all these modalities are out there because every single one of them should work for you. It's getting the opportunity to try them out to see how you feel with it and then be able to be like, oh, that's a tool that I can use for later. Oh, that's a tool that I can use for later. Oh, don't like that one. Like that's the cool part is we get to individualize it and use it the way that it works for us. And one of the other things that I want to bring up as well is um when we're talking about the word journaling, and this was really hard for me in the beginning. I heard so many people that were like, just journal, just journal, just journal. And I was like, I don't want to, dear diary, this is blah, 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 blah. Like, I didn't want to do that. This is something really cool. So I was working with a spiritual coach and we were having a conversation about this. And I love to write. Like I love to write things like physically write stuff down, not type it out. And that's a thing for me. And so I was like, okay, fine. I will give it a try, but I'm going to do it very different. So, what I decided that I wanted to do was I was just going to write anything and everything that came to mind for the first 5 to 7 minutes. The end. I wasn't going to ask questions on it. I wasn't going to try to fix the punctuation. I wasn't going to try to answer any of the questions that just whatever came to mind. And I will tell you that some of my journal entries were like, what the F? This is so stupid. Why am I even doing this? But what was really interesting is as I kept writing that and then just kept writing things out, other things started coming out. And I actually ended up answering my own questions. And then I was like, well, that's weird. And what was even really neat about it was after I did that, that was like the time that when my brain felt like there was so many things going, like I couldn't even tell what was going on, that it was like, shh. It was really, really neat. It was like I had taken everything that was in my brain and wrote it all out. And so it didn't have anything to continue to combat with. And then I got to read back through it. And it was really funny because when I would get a couple minutes in, I actually forgot what it was that I wrote down. I was like, I don't remember writing that. But it gave me a chance, like you were saying a minute ago, where it gives you a chance to see kind of that subconscious side. It gives you a chance to see the things that you're not noticing on a regular basis and then be able to decide how you want to address it. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to everybody's attention because I know that sometimes we hear journaling and we kind of go
Mm.
back to what we learned as a kid and not realizing that it has nothing to do with just writing down your day. It has to do with just getting the feelings and emotions out on something, like if you were venting to a friend and allowing the brain to just flow. Don't stop it, don't judge it, don't ask questions, and then see what comes from that.
Absolutely. And it's a style of automatic writing, and that is automatic writing is a way of getting into that subconscious and to really bring it out, like you say, and then explore it later. So just get it out there, don't worry about it, then explore it. And sometimes what I really love to do, I'll sit with my journal. If I've got current times are a really good example. I've got so much in my head, can't think, can't process, too much going on. Just sit down and I just write everything. And sometimes it'll end up as like a mind map without me even intending. And then I can organize it later. But yeah, it's so therapeutic. But yeah, it's not about like, dear diary, today this happened, that happened. I mean, that might work for some people. It doesn't work for me either.
Very true.
My journal is a mess. It's just a
I was
mess with
I'm
like,
so glad
well,
to know I'm not the only one. So, I have stuff scribbled all over the place. I can barely read my own handwriting.
And then I color code bits of it, and then I have highlighter on bits of it, and
Ooh.
to me it makes sense. But if anyone was to try to decipher it, they would have fun.
I love it. So let me ask you this then. For people that are in this space of, I am ready to try something different. I am ready to try something new. I'm kind of tired of being in this space. Is there one or two or three like particular things you suggest that people start with just to kind of try some things out and then they can move on?
Do you know what? I've got a tool on my website called 7 Days to Calm, and for exactly
Hmm.
this reason. So it takes 7 days to do it, and you can give as much or as little time to it over those 7 days as you wish. And it gives you a random load of different tools to try so that it's like a snapshot to see what works for you. So there's some breath work in there, there's some essential oil stuff in there, there's different yoga poses. There's information about chakras and there's all sorts of stuff. And so to anyone who's in that space, like I need to do something, and maybe I should try yoga, or maybe I should try. It's just an opportunity to like sample and try different things and see what makes you feel good, what makes you feel like no, that's a waste of time, that doesn't work for me. And it's interesting as well because I've found in my journey, and I don't know if it's the same for you, the more things you try and the better that you understand what works and what doesn't is great. But then over time, some of the things you tried in the beginning and you thought that's not for me, later on, somehow you cycle back. And then that time you think, actually, that works. It's really weird how, like, as you get to know yourself better, you start to suddenly access tools in a different way at a different time. And it's just it's an evolution, I think, as your frequency and consciousness changes, you become aware of different things and they resonate in different ways. It's part of the journey, I guess.
Yeah, oh, 100%. I definitely think that, depending on where you're at in your journey, one thing may work for you and then something else may work for you. Perfect example. One of the first things that I was introduced to was breath work. In the beginning, I was like, excuse me, you guys, my allergies are kicking me. Breath work was so hard for me. I don't know why, but it was just so hard for me. I just trying to keep the rhythm and all that for some reason it was just too much. And what's really interesting is like 2 years later, when I was working with a coach, it was something that they facilitated. And I went back to it and I was like, I tried this and it wasn't, but it really worked. Like in that session, it was the first time I'd ever had that kind of euphoric feeling from it that a lot of people talk about that they get when they're really in some of those sessions. And I was like, well, that was interesting. So I do think it's just like you're saying, it's an evolution. And I think that it's depending on where you're at in your journey and maybe even sometimes the things that you're dealing with means that
Yeah.
something is going to work and something isn't. And I think that's why it's really important to try out several pieces and components so that you have a plethora of tools that you can kind of pick from. So I love that you have this on your website because I think that that's what we need to be able to do is not feel like, okay, well, I have to try this. And if this doesn't work, then there's something wrong. It just means I go to the next one and I go to the next one. And maybe I'm like, I mean, it wasn't bad, but I didn't feel like it was great. Maybe I come back to it later. And I do think that that is something we need to make sure that we're aware of is because we are always evolving, because we are always changing. It also means that things that work for us or don't work for us is also going to change as well moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely
Oh,
agree.
Zoe, I could talk all afternoon about this stuff. We could go down so many rabbit holes and so many different pathways with all the things. But please do me a favor, especially since you gave everybody the information about what's on your website, tell everybody, how can they connect with you? How can they find you? How can they be in your world?
So I have a website, yourvitalitycoaching.com, and on there is everything. So there's access to, I do online fitness classes and yoga and meditation and sound bath classes. So those classes, for the next couple of weeks are a little bit limited because I'm moving house. But usually we do like three different cardio classes, three different yoga classes, and meditation and sound baths as well during the week. And if you attend them live, and they're at different times of the day, if you attend them live, they're free, or you can pay what you can. And if you can't attend live and you want to do them, then they're on there recorded and you can pay and download the video. Or you can become a member and you pay, I think it's £25. So what will that be in dollars? A little bit more, a little bit less. I'm not sure.
I don't have a
Oh,
calculator in front of me.
I keep meaning to put the exchange rate on the website. I must do that. But yeah, it's £25 a month membership, and you can attend as many classes live or recorded as you like. There's another membership where you pay a bit more and you get some weekly coaching and various other things to really help shape your journey. And so what I find is sometimes people will do the bigger membership and then they won't need that for long, and they'll
Hmm.
step down to the other one. Once it's about implementing the tools, understanding yourself, and once you've fathomed that out, you don't need my input so much. So all of that's on the website. I've got a 6-week course on there called Coming Home to You, which again, it's giving you all of the tools and helping you work through them and helping you figure out what works for you. There's loads of tools that go with that, and there's some coaching that goes with that as well. So you're not just left to your own devices. It's not like I'm going, here's the tools, off you go. There's coaching that goes along with that and support. So that's on there. What else have we got? We've got a 6-week package for people who are wanting to improve their well-being through fitness and exercise and nutrition. If people are wanting to lose a bit of weight the natural, healthy way, then there's support with that. Um, there is there's so much on there. There's different blogs. There's so much information, and I
Yes.
do
So go to the website.
yes, yeah. Go visit the website, have a look, spend a bit of time on there because it's huge.
That's
It started
awesome.
off as a landing page. It's now huge. So yeah, go have a look, go explore. And my email is on there. You can contact me, drop me a message, and I always like to hear from people and have a chat through. And yeah, it's great.
Oh, I love that so much. And well, of course, we'll make sure we have all that information in the show notes. We'll drop her website. We'll also drop the space so you guys can get directly to the tryout on her account as well for being able to try out those different modalities. Zoe, thank you so much for joining me for the podcast today. Do you have anything that you would like to leave the audience with?
Um, no, I don't today, actually. I think we've covered most of the things that I had in my mind, but I guess, yeah, I think my parting statement has to be make that time. Just make that time for yourself, however short it might be, 5, 10 minutes. Just take that time out every day to step back and just get some calm and peace and clarity back. It's so important and so beneficial.
100%. Thank you so much, Zoe, for being a part of the podcast and sharing all of your knowledge.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed chatting. Thank you.
No, you are so welcome. To everybody else out there, oh my goodness, I know you got some amazing takeaways. I know that we are all in this space of trying to figure out who we are and what we're wanting to do and why we're in burnout or why we're doing this and that. And this has been a theme that I feel like has been jumping out at you if you've been following the podcast all 2025. How do we become present with ourselves? How do we be more aware of how we handle things? How do we start taking back control of how we are putting things out into the world so that the things out in the world that we can't control do not start to control us? So, like Zoe said, 5, 10 minutes a day, take the time that you have, make it a part of your routine, stick to it, create that boundary in that space because you are the most important thing. And you can't give all of you to everyone else around you if you are not in the space of being able to control the parts of you that need that need the love, that need the care. So go to Zoe's website, find all the information. And until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Catch you later. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable